This used to be a pretty decent neighborhood to live in, y'all. Right up this hill where I'm at now, used to be a really good part of the neighborhood. Down the street is hell, but this side, this area, was decent. I'm gonna show you. What used to be the projects where I spent a lot of my youth. It used to be right here. God died slow. This used to be a private area, a living community known as the projects. It's not there no more. Not there no more. Neighborhood in Connecticut, or the worst neighborhood in New Haven. Down that road on Winchester Avenue, so many young men and women lost their life out here in this very area. I was born in New Haven, Connecticut. I attended Lincoln Bassett Elementary. I attended Jackie Robinson Middle School. And I lived on 55 Division Street in New Haven, Connecticut, and what's called the Ville section of town. But before that, years before that, I can remember being with my mom at a very young age. I remember moving around. I remember a lot of different things going on that at the time I was too young to understand. I remember the different streets we lived on, Bassett, Ivy, as kids in New Haven, Connecticut. I remember living in Waterbury for a little bit of time on Chestnut, and a few other streets that I know we lived on out there, but I don't remember the names of them. And I wanted this video to be as authentic as possible. So I did not dig too much into what street, because I didn't think it was impactful or mattered as much. The most impactful part of my childhood that I remember was foster care. I remember moving to Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, where my grandparents lived. And I remember the address. It was 16626 Santa Rosa in Detroit, Michigan. I remember living there with my grandmother and all my siblings and my mom. And, you know, before it got to that point, I remember certain things where I knew my mom wasn't well. and I'm gonna leave it there. I remember certain things happening that I knew wasn't normal. I remember certain activity and behaviors that I knew at a young age wasn't normal. But due to that, we were placed in foster care. And throughout those years, it was multiple foster homes. I don't remember the address, but I do remember my brother and I, my younger brother and I, were in the same home in Inkster, Michigan. And I won't say the name of the foster parents we had, because they were good people. Let me say that they were good people, and that place was probably the most comfortable place I've been throughout being in and out of foster homes. I do have other siblings. I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters. One brother that's deceased, and I'll get into that later on in a different part. But growing up in foster homes was tough for me, because, to be honest, I felt unwanted. I felt rejected. I felt abandoned. And nobody could fix that. There was nothing and nobody that could fix that feeling I had. If I wanted change, I had to fix it myself, but I was too young to understand that. But it was a trying time for me, dealing with the certain things and different people that, being forced to deal with was uncomfortable. And it made me look at things and view things a whole different way. I envied kids that had their mom and dad there with them. I didn't like to see happy homes and happy families. So it impacted me big time. Leaving a foster home to go to another foster home was not only difficult for me socially, it made it very difficult for me to adapt to the kids that I was around, my peers. Because once I would get used to them, it was time to go. And it didn't make me socially awkward, but what it did do was make me an introvert on the inside. But you couldn't tell. I was the funny class clown type of kid, but I was way out of my comfort zone. But I was so good at pretending you wouldn't know that. I remember going to sleep as a kid, crying myself to sleep, waking up to the same tears and wondering if things would change, or if that was it, if that was my life, if that was the destination, if that was the purpose. So a lot of the time that I spent crying and worrying and hoping and praying. I always prayed You know, I always felt like somebody was listening.